demand his rejection. Marge Baker is a spokeswoman for People for the American Way, and she joins us from the steps of the Supreme Court, where she is protesting as we speak. Marge, thanks a lot for coming on.
Is that right?
Thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and your viewers. It's great to be here.
Well, thanks. Well, I'm glad to hear from you. So you've been planning this for some time. I got the press release, and you didn't know who the president's pick was going to be, but you believed it was going to be, quote, extreme. If it had been, I don't know, someone on the left, if Michael Moore had been the nominee, would you still be protesting because he was Trump's choice?
We looked at the list of proposed nominees that Trump gave us, and we did our thorough research, and we were really concerned about any of those nominees. So we were not out here to protest anyone. We were out here to protest someone who was chosen from that list, about whom we had real concerns. I mean, the decision, the reason we're here tonight is because it makes a big difference to the American people who fills this lifetime seat on the Supreme Court. And we do need somebody who respects the Constitution and the law and understands that they're there to protect all Americans, not just the powerful and the wealthy and the corporations. And unfortunately, Neil Gorsuch is not the right man for this job.
So tell me why. And I think a lot of people share your view. I mean, a lot of people voted, frankly, for Donald Trump because they were suspicious of big money and corporations. You know, you can judge whether they should have or not, but they did. So a lot of people share your concern about people in power. What specifically about this nominee makes you believe he's unacceptable? What has he done that you don't like?
Our review of his record shows that he's a friend of Wall Street, that he makes it difficult for people who are injured by corporate wrongdoing to hold those corporations accountable, and that means consumers and workers and women who are discriminated against in the workplace and people who want clean air and clean water. So we have real concerns about his record, and so real concerns about whether he will have the independence and the judicial temperament to be a justice for all the people, not just for the wealthy and powerful.
Right. So if I could just press you a little bit to be specific on that. You said you're concerned that he's a friend of Wall Street, I think is a phrase you used, and that he's insensitive to women and workers.
Yes.
Why do you believe that? I mean, what specific decisions are you referring to?
Well, let's take the Hobby Lobby case, for example. You may know this case. It came out of the 10th Circuit, came out of a panel that Judge Gorsuch sat on. And this was the case that said that corporations are allowed to use religious liberty, their own religious liberty, as a reason to discriminate against women in terms of their being able to access contraception coverage. That's a really serious concern for a lot of women. And it's not just that it hurts women, but that principle that a corporation can justify its actions based on some false notion that it has rights, religious liberty rights that can be, the exercise of which can be offended, is really troubling because it has sweeping ramifications, not just for women, it has sweeping ramifications for LGBTQ people. So we're concerned about that. We're concerned
you don't believe that employers ought to be allowed to stand on their religious principles in the way that they act?
We don't believe corporations have the ability to exercise religious liberty and have that be interfered with. We do not believe corporations have religious liberty interests that can be offended by someone's access to contraception.
But I don't believe it was corporations. It was employers. Anybody who hires another person. The question at the root of the Hobby Lobby case was, can you force people to pay for something that violates their religious beliefs? And so you think the government can force people to do that?
The issue is whether or not corporations, a corporate entity, not individual, a corporate entity has religious liberty. But there's also real concerns about, we need somebody who's fair-minded, right? We need somebody who can be objective, who can make sure that they have the independence to push back on wherever they need to push back. And let's take, for example, the events of this. Let's take, for example, the events of this past weekend, where there's really serious concerns about whether the Trump administration respected the Constitution and even respected the courts that were
okay,
making
but
decisions this weekend.
I'm sorry to interrupt. If I could just bring, can I bring you back to today's news? Because you're protesting a specific nomination. How does that tie to this?
We're protesting a nominee and questioning whether that nominee has the independence of mind, will be a fair and neutral arbiter and have the independent judgment to be able to make decisions about whether or not that involve protecting the constitutional. And,
I get
and we're concerned about that. We're concerned about whether or not.
I want to give you a fair hearing, but I can't let you filibuster. I'm sorry, March. I just have to ask you a simple question. What suggests that he doesn't have that independence or that fairness? Do you have any evidence of that?
You look at his record that favors Wall Street and corporations. He believes that he makes it very difficult. His jurisprudence
what
makes
record?
it very.
I mean, what are you talking about specifically?
His record as a judge that argues that individuals and entities that want to hold corporations accountable cannot get their day in court to do that.
Can you give me an example of that?
The record of the Hobby Lobby case. There's a number of cases where he's argued
Can you give me
people should not have class action remedies. He's said that
where did he say that?
In his judicial record, in his writings,
he doesn't believe in any class action remedies?
There's a real concern about whether he believes people should be limited in terms of their ability to access use class actions as a way in which to hold corporations accountable, and it's a really serious concern.
Where did he say? I mean, I think you went to Yale Law School, so I know you have the details here. What are they?
I'm not going to go through case names for you, but
just help us here understand what you're saying.
Go to our website pfol.org, and you'll be able to see cases where he demonstrates that and so we have really serious concerns about whether or not he will be have the judgment and the
I got it. I just was hoping for some specifics.
To be able to be a fair arbiter.
Last question. I've been through an awful lot of these for the past 25 years, and it almost always comes down to calling the nominee a racist. I'm just giving you the opportunity now. Do you think that he's a racist? Will you be making that case?
I really don't understand the question. It comes down to calling a nominee racist.
I don't think I've seen a Republican nominee for the Supreme Court ever not called a racist by the people who oppose him on the left. I'm wondering, is there evidence that this guy is?
I don't think that's the issue here. Let's remember the issue here is whether you have somebody who's being nominated to the bench who understands that corporation and the laws of this country are for all of us, not just the powerful and the wealthy and the privileged. And that's what we're going to be making the case. And that's what we're going to be making the case. We think that's what the American people want to see in their justice, and we do not believe that Neil Gorsuch fits that bill. So we are
I agree with the first part. I don't think you've quite made the case here, but maybe you will.
We will be making that case. This is day one. We were making that case, and we believe that we will see support on both the Democratic and Republican side of the aisle.
I hope you're not preemptively judging here, Marge, because I sense you may be, but we'll have you back when you have a full case to display to our viewers. Thanks a lot.
Not preemptively judging at all. We are serious about this, and we believe that the American people will understand that this is not a justice for all the people.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
March Baker, thanks for joining us.
When Justice Scalia passed away suddenly last February, I made a promise